Well, thanks for being on. We just got our copies in the mail. Super excited about it. Essentially, this is just kind of my story from from birth until high school, and it's meant to hopefully inspire kids that are, everybody's going through different things. I think if you talk to enough professional athletes, which all of you have, you start to realize that everybody has a unique story. It's not the prototypical story. There's a lot of, especially in New Orleans, there's a lot of very unique stories and unique backgrounds and ways that guys made it onto this team. And I'm no different. And I just thought that there were a lot of lessons that I learned throughout my childhood that were, that could be, supportive for kids and what they go through. And I think, if I'm able to help out a few kids, it would be really awesome. So really proud of this book. We spent a lot of time going through meticulously different stories. And it was really a unique experience when other friends and family members that I've been impacted by growing up, they had stories that I didn't even remember about me that ended up being part of this book too, which is really cool. So super proud of the book, and hopefully we can get it into as many kids' hands as possible.
Thomas, what are a couple of the lessons you learned that you think could be really helpful to kids?
Well, I would say, the biggest, the most, I guess, negative experience I had growing up was it was a personal, soccer was my background my whole life. And I was cut from my high school soccer team. And it was like devastating. And, that's a much longer story to go into kind of how all that happened, but it's the only reason I went out for football my senior year. And so it really was the best thing that ever happened to me. And so just, I think the way that I dealt with that, the support that I had from my parents and the way that my dad in particular encouraged me to deal with it and how to move on positively and productively. You don't realize it at the time, but there's so many experiences that you have that end up being forks in the road for your life, but you don't know it at the time. And so I think it probably is a little analogous to like every play in the game matters. You don't know which one's going to be the big play, but you have to play each one like it's important. And for me, that was a very important turning point in my life and kind of how I dealt with that negative experience.
Thomas, can you maybe talk about how people can lean into this now, given what's going on, and kids may be uncertain about the future or have questions about what's going on? Does the book maybe kind of correlate to the pandemic in some way, or can there be lessons that people can take as they deal with a difficult time, young people, in some way?
Yeah, look, I think it's you don't have good without bad, and I think perspective is a great teacher for anybody. And we live in a place where you have the opportunity to be whatever you want to be. And I just think sometimes we lose sight. We've had, I know everybody's experience is different, and there's people in all sorts of different situations, but there's been a long period of time of kind of positive growth in this country where people haven't experienced something across the entire population that's been a negative thing, that's been strenuous, and it's been so life altering. And so sometimes when you have these experiences, I think it's important to look at the silver lining and the good that comes with it. And so, I think many of these lessons are more about how you deal with adversity rather than what the actual adversity is. So, and like I said, this is, it's a fairly easy read. And so we wanted to really be able to put this in the hands of as many kids as possible. And so hopefully it's something that, people understand, little details like, I was a 0-star recruit. Playing in the NFL was not my dream. That would have been a silly dream to have in high school. I think if having self-awareness and understanding that the reason I even got an opportunity to play in college was because I got an academic scholarship, and that was going to be my path. And so I think it was, me having self-awareness and controlling the things that I could control and making sure I kept as many doors open as possible is a big part of my story. And when you do that, more opportunities are available, and it kind of, obviously things have grown from there, but hopefully that answers your question.
Hey, Thomas, I feel like the idea of just writing or producing a book seems very daunting. So what was your reaction when this first conversation came up?
Honestly, Sean, we were supposed to have like a 10 or 15 minute call, and it ended up being 45 minutes. And we just, sometimes you just have an energy with somebody, and I had that with Sean. I could tell that our values and our kind of our maybe religious background was very similar. And I don't know, we just kind of hit it off, and he asked if we could stay in touch, and I said, absolutely. He ended up sending me a few other of his middle school rules series on some of the other athletes he had done, and asked me what I thought about it. And I said, I think these are great. I've enjoyed reading them to my boys at the time. And he said, well, what would you think about if we did a book, Middle School Rules of Thomas Morstead? And I said, well, what's your goal? He said, what do you mean? I said, are you actually trying to sell books? I said, I'm a punter in a small market. And he said, I think you have a great story, and I think you've touched a lot of people's lives, and I think it would be very meaningful and impactful. And I said, okay, well, then let's do it. And so it's been a long process. So many people have been a part of this. And, Sean has been outstanding to work with, because I really feel that his priorities, obviously he's trying to make a living, and this is what he does. But I think his priority is getting a positive message out into the world. And I feel like I know that he feels like that's his, that's kind of one of the reasons he's here, is to do that. He's kind of built to do that. So it's been really a joy working with him, and it's been a very positive experience all the way around.
Kind of a cool experience opening a box of books and seeing, your name and your likeness on the book itself. Yeah,
it's cool. Actually, I'm gonna, after this interview, I'm posting that video. Lauren recorded me opening the box up, and it was just really cool. Sean Jensen told me that when I open this box up, it's going to be kind of a unique feeling, and he was right. I think the reason it's so impactful is because of all the people that are involved in this. A teacher, a few coaches, a grandparent, an uncle, my brother, just different things that I went through in my life that either things that those people had to say about me and how I impacted them that I didn't maybe know about. And also just reminiscing about maybe sometimes that were harder than I wanted to give it credit for, and really kind of, I'm typically looking forward most of the time. What's next? Let's go get this. I don't wear my Super Bowl ring because I'm trying to get another one type of thing. But every now and then it's nice to look back and just remember some moments that have been impactful and that were challenging, and so it's very meaningful in a lot of ways, for sure.
What about your kids' reaction to the book being about you, cartoon dad or animated dad?
Well, it was cool. I actually, when we got the final rough draft, I read it on our iPad with them with all the pictures, and we had to read it all in one night. They would not let me stop reading. And I think it was more than just, oh, cool, dad's in a book. I think it was seeing some stories about their grandparents that they didn't know, or, some other people that are heavily involved in our life that they were interested in as well, too. So it wasn't just insight into dad. It was insight into granny and granddad, and into some places that they've been that were important to me growing up, going to the farm in England where my mom is from, and seeing that and some of those experiences that I had, they can kind of relate a little bit because they've been over there now. So it's been really cool sharing it with them. But as soon as we got the box in here, my oldest son Maxwell took the book and sat in the corner, and he I don't know how many hours he spent, but he went through the whole book, and so it was pretty cool.
Thomas, you're obviously willing to try a bunch of different endeavors, but how wild is the idea, the main character of a children's book?
It is crazy. It wasn't super difficult because it's not like, I'm not the most creative personality in the world. And this is just me telling my story, right? It's regurgitating things that have happened and things that have been impactful to me. And so it was actually really fun just going back and reminiscing. The first time we sat down, we probably came up with 20 stories. And then by the time we were done, we were probably closer to 50, because you kind of get in the weeds and then it leads you to remember something else. And, but it is wild. I mean, looking at this image, that's not too far off, right there. So it's just, I don't know, just a little kid from Pearland, Texas. And all I ever wanted to do was play on a Friday night in front of my hometown. And then when I walked on, it was just like, oh, maybe I could play on a Saturday one day and get a chance to experience that. And it's just been every step of the way. There was no expectation, I guess. I've just always done my best and just try to put my best foot forward. And I don't worry too much about where I need to end up. I just do my best, and that's carried me pretty far. So.
Hey, Thomas, was this always the scheduled release, or did what's happening? I know, the Michael Jordan, that Last Dance deal, they pushed it up because more people were home. Was this always the scheduled timeline for the release and the target date for the book, or because maybe more people are home with their kids, things were altered because of that?
No, actually, it's a little later than I hoped for. We were trying to get it out in April, which would have been prime time for the pandemic, for sure. But, you can't rush something like this. We had to make sure we had all our ducks lined up, and it's just it's more about the final product than it is the timing of the release. So, that's one of those things that I think football teaches you just to kind of, sometimes you just got to go with the flow, and it's all about getting it right, no matter how long it takes. And so, like I said, I'm really proud of how it came out.
Thomas, did you have a book growing up that you remember reading that sort of inspired you?
Yeah, I actually can't remember the name of it, but it was four professional athletes that it was one book, 4 athletes that had all overcome significant adversity. And the 4 characters were Catfish Hunter, the pitcher that had one hand, and he would pitch with his hand, and then he would flip his glove off immediately to the other hand so that he could catch it and throw it if he needed to field. And then
Thomas, I think that was Jim Abbott.
Yeah.
Jim Abbott, not Catfish Hunter.
I'm sorry. See, there you go. I'm ruining it already. But I remember the story, and I remember about the cyclist. I think it was Greg LeMond. I think that was the cyclist that got shot in the back in a hunting accident. Had like 60 shards of shotgun go in his back, and he ended up winning the Tour de France. And it was another Olympic guy that tore his shoulder out, rotator cuff, and 9 months later was back in the Olympics. So I remember reading that a number of times back in 4th grade. Not that I ever thought I'd be in any of those guys' type of positions, but anyways, thanks for the correction there.
You're more than welcome. Look, all I can say is I can imagine the stress you're under when you get a day like this, Thomas, when the frizzy hairs are like on a scale of 10. And it obviously got you.
Yeah, well, it's all right. I appreciate it. My kids are in the back in the next room doing some sort of jukebox thing right now, and so that's got me a little gray in my focus here. But also, I would just say, the real athlete growing up that was my hero was my dad. He was a pro cyclist, and just watching him learn to, watching him train growing up. That's in the book a little bit. Watching him voluntarily suffer. That's what cycling is. It's all about suffering. I learned a lot from watching him, not so much what he said, but just how he was and the model he put out there for me. So very fortunate to have that in my life.
It's funny you mentioned your dad. I was just about to ask if your dad watched the Lance Armstrong 30 for 30 the other day. And what
we actually both watched it. It was quite fascinating. I'll be looking forward to next week's part 2.
I'm just glad they're giving us something to watch every Sunday when that
right?
ends.
I'm with you. I'm actually looking forward to the Bruce Lee one most of all. I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee, so I think that's going to be really cool.
Did you like The Last Dance, or did you watch it?
I only got to watch a few of the episodes. Well, I'll just say kids, and that's it. So we've had some grandparent help this weekend, so I was able to sit down and actually watch.
Hey, Thomas, if I could ask you about maybe just one question about the off season here. Have you stayed in touch with any of the other players? I know Sean gave, the veteran players and said show up in the best shape. How has it been? I know you've posted videos of kicking with your kids. Have you talked to coaches, players? How has the off season been going for you?
It's going great. It's, very different, very, very different. It's been challenging from the standpoint of the kids aren't in school and there's no childcare. So we're just on all day, every day. And it's hard to kind of get away. But we've adjusted. I just think it's been a challenge for a lot of people, I think, as parents, no matter what they do. I can't imagine so many families that have bigger families or any kids at all. That both parents are working full time. That's got to be a major challenge for so many people. But I've talked to players. Cam Jordan's rolling around with his crew on bikes by our house all the time, and so I've seen him a few times. I've kept in touch with a few guys. So it's just everybody's got their own challenges for sure. And I think for our team specifically, if nobody could meet for the whole year and had to get ready to go play a season quickly, I think that would be an advantage for us. We have a very veteran team. We've got our quarterback coming back, our head coach coming back, and there's a lot of continuity, and continuity is very, very important. So, we'll see how this thing shakes out. Obviously, there's lots of things keep changing every day. So there's a lot of time between now and the scheduled start of the season.
What have these virtual team meetings been like, if you've even been able to get on them? I think Peyton mentioned in an interview the other day, you randomly had Snoop Dogg on one of them.
Yeah, he keeps things interesting for sure. Coach has got a unique ability to keep everybody on the edge of their seat for team meetings throughout the year. So I'm not surprised he did that. I think it's been good actually for everybody to get on the call and just to see everybody's face. We're used to kind of being back together right now, and that hasn't been the case. And we obviously have a very tight knit unit. So it was nice to see everybody, and just it's an opportunity to everybody see each other's face and converse a little bit. So it's been nice.
Anybody else? Any last questions?
Can I say one more thing, just real quick? Doug Miller, please be careful as you multitask, drive and Zoom.
No, that's my daughter who's driving. I'm in the passenger seat. See that if I get really, really, really pale, you'll know why. And we're right in the middle of some 18-wheelers right now. But thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining again today. a former New Orleanian. It's nice to see you all in person, kind of. But we'll send a few keynotes after this, and also a link to download the video if you weren't able to record. But if you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. And just thank you all for being here today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for setting this up. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.